Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, please make sure to like, to share, and subscribe because today's discussion is serious. And honestly, it is disturbing. If you have been around my channel, you would know that I have done quite a few videos about Tobi Adeboyega. And so, in my last live stream about him, we were critiquing one of his videos where he was sitting with some of his young pastors. And I was shocked by some of the things that they casually admitted. There were many red flags, but two in particular stood out. And they say a lot about the dark reality of this so called church called SPAC Nation. It is disturbing what is going on in SPAC Nation, or the Nation family as they are now called. So, at one point, one of the female pastors, they were having a conversation. Okay, let me give a backstory. So, what Tobi Adeboyega has done, he has set up churches within the church. So, churches within the church. And these churches compete against each other. They work together, but also compete against each other. Toby told them that they are brothers in destiny, but they are not brothers in exploits, whatever the hell that means. So, Toby puts these churches in competition with one another. They compete for who has the most young people brought to events. They compete for how many people gave their life to Christ, how many people. It's all about the numbers. It's a numbers game. And so they were having this back and forth about our church has done better than your church. We brought 200. Oh, no, you did this. So it was back and forth. And this young lady said, oh, but we have 14-year-olds in our church, and we have those 14-year-olds paying £50 a week. They give £50 a week.
So meant to pick up the few that will come into correct me if I'm wrong. However, they haven't. I don't believe they've established a lot of people in comparison to the amount of people that love those guys.
That's not true. That's not true. Who told him that? I can list 10 right now. And our youngest is 14 and they give. They contribute financially. Sorry. They contribute financially. They're established and they contribute financially. Mars gives about £50 weekly to CNG. He's a soul. No, it doesn't. You don't have souls contributing to your service.
We have a 14-year-old.
Our 14-year-old is giving.
And we still contribute to this. Our influence spans all.
Our youngest is 14 and they give. They contribute financially. Sorry. They contribute financially. They're established and they contribute financially. Mars gives about £50 weekly to CNG. He's a soul. No, it doesn't. You don't have souls contributing to your service.
We have a 14-year-old.
Our 14-year-old is giving.
And we still contribute to this. Our influence spans all.
She said it with her full chest. Can you imagine 14-year-olds giving £50 a week in Tobi Adeboyega's church? I mean, what 14-year-old has £50 a week to donate to a church? Now, let's break this down. 14-year-olds are still children. Most of them do not have jobs. Where is this money coming from? Are they being pressured to take it from their parents? Are they being guilt-tripped into giving up their lunch money? Are they stealing this money? At that age, these kids should be focused on school, their hobbies, and just being kids. Instead, they are being trained to see their worth in how much money that they can bring to Tobi Adeboyega. Let's also talk about emotional manipulation that goes along with this. In cult-like groups like SPAC Nation, young people are often made to believe that giving money is a sign of loyalty or a test of their faith. They are convinced that the more they give, the more blessed they will be. But let's be real. This is exploitation. Plain and simple. Pastor Tobi is living a luxury lifestyle, wearing designer clothes, driving high-end cars, living in million-pound houses, while the kids in his church are being conditioned to empty their pockets for him. And this is how financial abuse works in these predatory religious organizations. Take from the most vulnerable and make them believe that it is for a higher cause, that they are working for God. What is also disturbing is these pastors, these other young pastors who are confident in taking money from young children, because Tobi doesn't take the money himself. He uses these young pastors to obtain these monies from these young people. How can you, Tobi's pastors, how can you feel so confident to take monies off a 14-year-old? And that young lady who particularly said this, really, you said it with your full chest. It is terrible what you guys are doing to children. And what's worse is that this cycle, it doesn't stop. These kids, they grow up thinking that they must keep giving, sacrificing, and proving their loyalty. And before they know it, they are in their 20s and in their 30s, still funding Tobi's extravagant lifestyle while they struggle. How is this allowed to happen on UK soil? How? The second thing in this SPAC Nation cult, Tobi talked about the sin files, Tobi's weapon of control. Tobi said that the people who have left, we have their sin files with us, and no sin will go unpunished. He explained that the church had files on people who have left when they confessed their sins.
Of governorship you want to run. If you're not here, we'll support you to fight you in everything, every single thing. And people should know that the confession of their sin file is still with us. The only reason why we're not using it now is it's not important. We want to realize we've lost all the data when people come. We've lost it, but confession of sin is in our hands. We've kept the no sin is going to go. But I can predict that we won't need it. I hope you know what that means. I can predict that won't be needed. You won't need your sin exposed because nobody will know. I've given biblical support for you. Upper probably of governorship you want to run. If you're not here, we'll support you to fight you in everything, every single thing. And people should know that the confession of their sin file is still with us. When they say their sin is here, the only reason why we're not using it now is it's not important. We want to realize we've lost all the data when people come. We've lost it, but confession of sin is in our hands. We've kept no sin is going to go. But I can predict that we won't need it. I hope you know what that means. I can predict that won't be needed. You won't need your sin exposed because nobody will know. I've given biblical support for you. Upper probably
Sounds like recordings of private conversations that were made while these people were there at their most vulnerable. This is pure blackmail. Tobi went ahead to say, we may not be needing this. We don't get me wrong, whatever the case, Tobi Adeboyega is evil. He makes these young people confess their sins while recording them and keeps them and calls them the sin files. Tobi said if they lose any data at all, they will not lose the sin files. They haven't had to use it because there hasn't been any need for it. But that is a threat. That is a threat to the current pastors who were listening. So if you leave, well, we've got your sin files. Who does that? When people join religious organizations, they are often encouraged to confess their sins as part of their spiritual growth. But instead of offering guidance or support, Tobi is keeping those confessions like leverage over these young people. Imagine leaving a church because you finally realize that it is toxic, only to live in constant fear that the pastor would expose your secrets at any time. That is psychological warfare. This tactic is meant to silence former members and make current members too scared to leave. Because if you do, they risk having their most private, vulnerable moments used against them. This is exactly how abusive groups operate. They create an illusion of trust. They make you feel safe enough to share your deepest struggles. And then the moment you try to leave, they use that information to control you. Now, think about the impact on these young people. Think about it. These people are trapped. They know if they leave, they could be exposed. They feel shame. They were taught to believe their sins define them, and now their past mistakes are being weaponized against them by Tobi. They lose their autonomy. They are conditioned to believe that Tobi holds the power over their lives and decisions. This isn't just dangerous, it is downright evil. So, the bigger picture, and why we can't ignore this, and why we need to keep on speaking about this Tobi Adeboyega's cult. Pastor Tobi is not running a church. He is running a cult-like system that preys on young people's fears, their vulnerabilities, and finances. They are given impossible expectations. They are pressured to donate, pressured to obey, pressured to compete for his approval. They are being controlled emotionally and psychologically. They are taught to fear the outside world and rely only on SPAC Nation. And worst of all, their futures are being stolen. Instead of building independent lives, they're being used to prop up a fraudulent empire. This isn't just about calling out one man. It's about protecting young people from being trapped in a system that doesn't care about them. It only cares about their loyalty and their money. And there is one man at the center of it, and that is Tobi Adeboyega, the greedy, insensitive, inconsiderate preacher. Well, I don't consider him a preacher. Well, I have a petition to have the UK government deport Tobi already. Or better still, have a look into this organization called SPAC Nation. Why they would drop those charges? They had to look further. Just look, how is it that we can see things that the police cannot see? So I will insert the petition link in the description of this video. So do make sure to go and sign it to hold this man accountable. So let me know what you think in the comments. Have you or someone you know experienced this kind of manipulation in a church? So if so, let's talk about it. And do not forget, stay away from controlling, abusive churches and religious leaders.